No. Okay. Yeah. I'd like to call the June 25th St. Charles County Council meeting to order. Our first thing, we'll have an invocation by Matt Slatter from Harvester Christian Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike Elam, if you will lead us in the pledge after that.
Father, we just come to you tonight, and we just want to recognize who you are, that you are our God, that you're in control, and we just thank you for that. We thank you that just in the midst of just all the things that we might deal with in life, Lord, that you're right by our side, and we thank you for that. Lord, I thank you for the people that are standing here before me and the people that are standing behind me tonight, Lord. And I just pray that you just might be all over this time, God, that you just might work in and through the people, Lord, speaking on both sides. And God, we ultimately just pray for this city, Lord, that you just continue to to do some amazing things here, Lord. We also pray for this country and for this world, Lord. We thank you that we live in this country, and we thank you for all that you're doing in and through each of us. We thank you and we love you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have roll call, please.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here. Next, we have conditional use permit, bill number 4607.
Bill number 4607, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-05 for automobile sales to Mutual Assurance Company Partnership LLP, property owners, and Pinel Raj Clement, applicant.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4607 and replace it with substitute Bill number 4607.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Did you have
Don't
any
get
discussion
discussion.
before you did a final
Aye.
vote?
Does anybody want to have any other thing to discuss on this bill? Hearing none, motion passes.
Ready for the roll call for this new substitute bill then?
Yes.
Okay. Substitute Bill number 4607, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-05 for automobile sales to Mutual Assurance Company Partnership LLP, property owners, and Pinel Raj Clement, applicant. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes. That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4608.
Bill number 4608, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-06A for automobile, boat, truck, trailer, and recreational vehicle storage to the Gerald A. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, and the Glennon J. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, property owners, and Gerald A. Keevan, applicant.
Can I
Yes.
get a motion for?
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4608 and replace it with substitute Bill 4608.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion on this bill? Hearing none. All those in favor of the substitute bill?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Go ahead and read the bill and call the roll, please.
Substitute Bill Number 4608, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-06A for automobile, boat, truck, trailer, and recreational vehicle storage to the Gerald A. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, and the Glennon J. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, property owners, and Gerald A. Keevan applicant. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4609.
Bill number 4609, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-06B for a single-family residence to the Gerald A. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, and the Glennon J. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, property owners, and Gerald A. Keevan applicant.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4609 and replace it with substitute Bill 4609.
Second.
All right, I got a second. Any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Substitute Bill number 4609, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 18-06B for a single-family residence to the Gerald A. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, and the Glennon J. Keevan Revocable Trust dated February 24, 2000, property owners, and Gerald A. Keevan applicant. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Public comment will allow 3 speakers for and 3 speakers against any topic. And we'll begin with, who's first?
We have, starting on Bill 4583, we have Doug Teeman in support.
Good evening. My name's Doug Teeman. I'm an engineer with Pickett, Ray and Silver. I'm here to discuss the proposed Missouri Bluffs development. And before you have a revised plan that I would like to describe to you briefly. What you see is a drastically revised plan. We've altered the plan to create some very large conservation areas in the southern portion of the project. There's approximately 62 acres that we now have dedicated as conservation areas along the southern areas of the property, which abut the Conservation Department's land, which is where the Katy Trail is located. The southern property of this, the southern edge of this property is roughly 800 feet away from the Katy Trail on the eastern side and a little over 100 feet from the Katy Trail on the western side. And we have an additional 61.29 acres that we're dedicating as conservation areas along that area. We also have an additional 20.8 acres of conservation areas that we are dedicating within the lots of this development. And those will be in the rear portions of the lots. Those abut areas that are on the eastern side next to Highway 64. They're also in the western side that abut the Duckett Creek Treatment Plant and also the Zoltec development, which is in the industrial park. The lot sizes have drastically changed since the first semester. We are now have the closest lot being 550 feet from the Katy Trail, and the closest golf hole that's existing is 420 feet from the Katy Trail. So all the lots are going to be on the further side of the golf course. When we eliminated these areas, it allowed us to do much preserve areas that we were dedicating as roadways. So it's eliminated some of the most difficult areas for our development, which is further reduced the impacts to the valley areas that we were originally proposing. We have now limited those areas, and we're doing minimal disturbance in the southern area because of the 62 acres, but also because of where the roads run, which are on the ridges.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Against is Mark Kaiser.
My name is Mark Kaiser, and I've been a longtime resident of Weldon Spring. I spent the better part of the last 6 years on that trail almost every day. It's one of the most wonderful pieces of property there is. I would like to first thank the council for listening to the many voices of the community and their efforts to try to make this into something better. Sad to say, this development plan has so many glaring issues, so many concerns, and far too many dynamics. There will be so many disruptions and negative impacts to so many people for the benefit of the fortunate few. Many speakers have raised these issues, and I hope they are top of mind as the council makes its decision. It seems odd that the golf course is not the biggest opponent to this development. It will destroy the edge beauty of the Bluffs course. This plan, I believe, is an exit strategy. We must question as golf memberships dwindle across the area, is a long-range plan to develop the course for houses. What is being done to prohibit this? If this zoning is passed, this allows for this to happen. We need to be very guarded in allowing abstract math to factor into the density and green space of this development. As former alderman in Weldon Spring, I have been in this seat of this council many times, weighing the rights of landowners to sell land balanced against what is best for everyone in the community. The owner is held hostage by this process. But in this case, this room, everybody here is the owner. We are the rightful owners of this property. The university is owning a curator. They should, and by now want to, do what is right to carry out the best wishes of all the citizens. Now that there is public knowledge that this land is available, let's give others the opportunity to provide a better option, one that will benefit the many versus the privileged few. This development brought out the passionate voices of the community to preserve this land, to ensure there is great stewardship, to do better, and I know we can do better. The council vote should align with P&Z, align with the passionate voices of this community, align with the opportunity for the university to rethink the right plan for this exceptional property. Why can't this land be put in a trust for botanical purposes? It can. We can and will create a wonderful conservation experience without any damage to the land. Mike Elam has challenged all of us to rechannel our passions and energy to ensure this land is preserved and is protected. This effort is already underway. Vote no, knowing this ground will be protected by stewards that will care and preserve it. Thank you so much for doing so. I promise there is an army of people ready to go to take this land over and do the right things. It does not need to be destroyed. I promise. Thank you.
In support, Chuck Caverly.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Chuck Caverly. I work with Native Landscape Solutions. We've talked quite a bit about this property over the last couple of months, and one of the things that we've talked about in earnest is the pressure of invasive species all along the MoDOT corridor, the Highway 94 corridor, bush wildlife, and most of you know how hard it is to keep track of invasive species because you're doing it at your own homes or your own farms. Honeysuckle can be controlled, and it can be maintained, and it can be eradicated. It's done at Powder Valley, the Missouri Department of Conservation site. The Monsanto headquarters and Creve Corps is well on their way to eradicating it from that site. So what I would suggest to you tonight is if you look at the conservation development ordinances, the covenants that have been put forth in this project, that this project actually creates an opportunity to conserve those 400 acres through this development and preserve them for time moving forward. It allows this property, all 400 acres, the golf course and all the residential homes and set-aside property around it, to be by covenant, by ordinance, preserved and maintained. Stewardship funds are part of the project, and so the institution of this development would take care of the stewardship, and in fact would fight every year for those 400 acres to be maintained invasive species free. If you've driven through Missouri Research Park, you know right at the very entrance to the golf course, all along the main drive, there's Calorie Pear, there's Autumn Olive, there's Sericea lespedeza. If you've been on the golf course, you've seen it in some of the common ground areas. So the pressure is very real. And the goal of this conservation development is to in fact preserve it. And not only just preserve the residential homes, but to preserve all of the common ground associated with the golf course. So it's not just about 140 lots, it's about 400 acres. The idea of conserving to preserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Against, Tracy Papillo.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Papillo. I represent Katy Land Trust in Magnificent, Missouri. And we do appreciate all of your hard work on this bill. And we are sympathetic to you because NT Homes has put you in a terrible position. They've provided you and the public less than a week ago a revised plan with little time to review it, and they're pushing you to vote without having all of the information because they have a contractual deadline. They're making their problem your problem. But the revised plan still has significant legal issues and leaves a lot of uncertainty as to the development itself. It's still inconsistent with the master plan. It's still, even with the reduction in homes, it does not meet the density requirements of the PUD ordinance. Despite all the promises of NT Homes that you keep hearing, I haven't seen anything of any binding restrictions, nothing that requires the golf course to remain public, nothing that limits the development of the property if the PUD goes away, and nothing that requires them to sell any of the property to conservation groups, which they've also mentioned. In addition to that, I took a look at the golf course and the common ground issues because a lot of people are concerned about the golf course. And there are significant issues with respect to that common ground that make it questionable whether this development can ever meet the PUD requirements. Under Ordinance 405-205, any land in a PUD overlay district that is not subdivided into lots like the golf course shall be deemed common ground of the development and have ownership vested in the homeowners association. That's what your ordinances say. I think it's very unclear at this point as to how the developer is treating the golf course, and I suspect that neither the university nor the lessee of the golf course want that property to vest in the homeowners association. If that doesn't happen, you can't meet the requirements of the PUD. You also have an issue with respect to the PUD because it requires that all slopes greater than 30% be placed in common ground area. Again, this is mandatory under your ordinances. There are portions of that property that have a slope greater than 30%. Your staff has called out this issue, and it's not placed in common ground. It's made part of these lots, and that violates the PUD ordinance. You'd have to change the ordinance to allow this development. So you have all of these legal issues with this PUD and whether it can ever get final approval, and you're just being asked to kick these issues down the road and not address them now and keep your fingers crossed that it's going to work out in the future. But in the meantime, you're changing that underlying zoning of the property to something that would allow 400 houses to go there on that bluff and on that golf course. And there's nothing in the code that provides that once you make that change, and that's the change that will happen if there's a yes vote tonight with respect to R1A, the R1A zoning district. There's nothing that would allow that or require that to go back to agricultural zoning. So in short, don't let NT Homes rush you into a yes vote tonight. Please vote no.
In support, Brad Goss.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, my name is Brad Goss. I represent NT Home Builders, and we are presenting a revised plan that has been before the council for their consideration since the last meeting. As this council is aware, the plan is a significant departure from the prior plan that was considered by the council, and indeed the prior plan that was considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The number of lots in this proposal has been reduced to 140 lots. As opposed to the double of that amount that was proposed originally. Originally, we had 387 units in this project. We have reduced that substantially. We're down to 276 possible total units. And so the density and the number of units significantly reduced. The most important thing, however, is that we've set aside 60 acres on the southern part of our project that is a buffer between this project and the Katy Trail. That is a non-disturbance area, and it's something that will be left alone. We have engulfed the entire perimeter of this project with a non-disturbance area as well. We have conservation covenants that Mr. Caverly described that encumber this entire development, and we are funding those with assessments that are required and also certain other restrictions and resale covenants that have to be honored on the resale of a home. So there are ways that we're going to fund this and continue to preserve this site. We've designed this site in order to have the least possible impact, which as a result, the number of trees being removed on this site is very low. We're preserving over 88% of the trees on this site. It's incredibly low for development standards. And as a result, we're creating a development that's very unique and it's very different from what's been created before. And indeed, this is a great departure from the Planning and Zoning Commission plan that was considered several months ago. Obviously, I disagree with counsel for Magnificent Missouri. I will not get into a legal argument with you tonight, as I'm sure you'll be glad to know, and instead focus on the merits of this plan. It's a good plan, and it's gotten better because of what this council has caused us to do, to change this plan, so that we now truly are doing something that meets the objections that were raised, that's truly setting aside areas in the development that need to be set aside, and that are causing the kind of conservation, preservation, and restoration of this property that we set as a goal from the beginning. I'm happy to answer any questions if you might have them. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
And the sixth speaker against is Dan Burkhardt.
Good evening. I'm Dan Burkhardt with the Katy Land Trust in Magnificent, Missouri. After all the meetings we've had, there's not much new information to share. We do appreciate the chance the council's given us to speak to our objections on this project. You've heard from a variety of speakers about the cultural, historical, and environmental implications of what we're talking about. As you've heard from our attorney, we continue to urge you to give all parties more time to pin down the specifics of the proposal that's on the table tonight. With that, we can give everyone, including the University of Missouri, an opportunity to start over and come up with a reasoned, well thought out, well-defined plan that will create a future for this property that it deserves. I'd like to use my few minutes tonight, since I think we all agree we've said about all there is to say on this subject, to read from a report that was done in 1974 by the Missouri Department of Conservation and others about the future use of this land. 44 years ago, people were talking about this property and trying to figure out what the best future was for it. The history of the Weldon Spring Tract is a long and varied one. It has been virgin wilderness, it has been farmland, but the one thing it has not been ever is city. The integrity of its hills has been untouched for centuries. It is, as it was, a large tract of near wilderness containing the wild things that fed and clothed and possibly even entertained its earliest human inhabitants. Because it is what it is, the opportunity for working with it, rather than changing it forever, is unique. This opportunity will not come again. Well, 45 years later, it has come again, and you have the opportunity to deal with it. We encourage you to continue to protect this area as others before you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the sixth speaker on that issue, so do you want to move to another issue?
Yes.
Okay. Then we have, on Bills 4610 and 4611, we have one speaker, and that's Drew Weber.
Good evening, members of the council, Mr. County Executive. My name is Drew Weber with the Hamilton Weber Law Firm. I'm here on behalf of Ann Cobb Construction to speak in favor of Bills 4610 and 4611. As you know, those bills are proposing rezoning and preliminary plat approval for a small subdivision to be called Shadow Pines along Bryan Road. At the last council meeting, we talked a lot about the appropriateness of the rezoning, so at this meeting, I'd like to focus on a variance request that we have that I didn't get a chance to discuss. The street design standards of the county require that two streets that abut or intersect with an arterial road must have 300 feet separation between their center lines. And there is directly south of 1112 Bryan Road, the subject property, there is a street that accesses a similar sized subdivision called Pascal Court. The proposed access point to Shadow Pines is at the very far north of the subject property. In fact, it can't go any farther north, yet there's only about 270 or 280 feet of separation. And that's a maximum that we can do on this property. Otherwise, the property is not developable. Now, there is actually an existing driveway in about the same area, so there wouldn't be any new access point. I mean, it would be wider, but it's the same area that exists right now. So, but because of the county's road design standards, we have to seek a variance for 270 or 80 feet versus 300. So we ask that you approve that variance tonight. And then again, we ask that you approve the rezoning despite O'Fallon's objections. As I said at the last meeting, this rezoning to R3A meets the county's comprehensive plan and the city of O'Fallon's comprehensive plan. And both the city and county staff and the city and county planning and zoning commissions were in favor. It was only the city council that was opposed because they wanted that property to be commercial, which doesn't really make sense because about 70% or more of the boundary lines in this property are residential, and it's a significantly residential portion of Bryan Road. There's only a couple commercial properties in the area. So, and I know Councilman Hammond is familiar with the area, but we ask that you approve the rezoning despite O'Fallon's objections and the preliminary plat with the requested variance. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have when the bill comes up, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And the last speaker we have is Arnie Dienoff.
Thank you, members of the County Council. Arnie A.C. Dienoff, public advocate and county resident. First of all, I'm in opposition to Bill 4610, and it's a rezoning of land on Bryan Road. There was opposition and a remonstrance, a resolution passed by the O'Fallon City Council about 6 weeks ago by a vote of 10-0. This land on the frontage of Bryan Road should remain commercial. Number two, the density issue. You're putting a ton of units on a small piece of parcel of land. And three, as the residents stated, the Planning and Zoning Commission at both the O'Fallon Planning and Zoning and the County Planning and Zoning, flooding issues. I'm in opposition and opposed to Bill number 4611, approving a preliminary plat for Shadow Pines. Number one, the density is not a solid or sound plan. It's kind of a political law firm that's hinged with the county executive and some members of this county council and buys its way through zoning. Number two, there's flooding issues. Number three, traffic. Number four, a letter from the superintendent of the Fort Zumwalt School District in opposition because of the construction of the cul-de-sac and the not radius turning of a school bus. and a letter on file from the fire chief and fire marshal of the O'Fallon Fire Protection District, where you can't get fire trucks down this small, narrow street for emergency and safety purposes. And finally, I'm in opposition to Bill number 4583 to rezone the 18 Research Park Circle. This is a brand-new plan. There needs to be fairness, public testimony, and transparency. County council members actually at 4:40 p.m. this past Friday, 3 days ago, received this brand-new plan. We, the public, have a right to know. I'm asking that you resend this plan back for reconsideration or consideration to the Planning and Zoning Commission, as that's only the proper and fair thing to do, and to be compliant with our new ordinance that states any substantial change must be redirected back to the Planning and Zoning for their consideration. Number two, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 1 yes and 9 no. These are citizen planning and zoning commissioners to recommend no to the county council. Number three, a resolution was passed, a remonstrance, which causes 5 out of 7 members from the 2 communities adjoining the University Research Park. Number 4, I ask again that the county purchase the property with use sales tax through our Parks Department. Number 5, you should listen to the outcry of a solid no from the neighborhood, the community, the county, the region, and the state. And number 4, the resignation 2 weeks ago in protest of a curator of the University of Missouri system. Number 7, these are our public lands and were sold to the university for
Thank you,
$1.
Mr. Dean Hoff. Your time's up.
I ask that you vote no on this. Thank you.
Next item, do we have an oral report from the county exec tonight or anything?
Not this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next item is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, if I can get my screen to work here. Is bills for final passage, beginning with Bill 4610.
Bill number 4610, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1B Single Family Residential District, 20,000 square foot minimum lot size, to R3A Medium Density Residential District as per application RZ 18-06.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please. Yes.
Contrary to what one of the speakers said, I did talk to President O'Fallon, Board of Aldermen, and all the aldermen too, and the statements about the school district and the ambulance district, fire district aren't completely true. They were concerned about the size of the radius, but the preliminary plan, and I'd like to thank your applicant for putting a preliminary plan in, because I really appreciate that. If you looked at the preliminary plan, it's big enough for the fire trucks and the school buses. So I'm good with this. I think O'Fallon made a mistake in not granting residential about this particular development. Okay.
Yeah, I also had an opportunity to speak with a couple of the councilmen from O'Fallon, and I don't think it was clear that this all had planned to be commercial property. I don't know. And they're one of the councilmen, I guess we finally agreed, and he didn't think it was a big issue, but I guess he was hoping that he was trying to reserve all the commercial ground in O'Fallon and make everything commercial they could, because he said rooftops cost us money, which is additional homes, and I just don't understand that, but I'm supportive of this bill, and I hope it passes. Any other comments?
Bill number
Please read the roll.
4610, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1B Single Family Residential District, 20,000 square foot minimum lot size, to R3A Medium Density Residential District as per application RZ 18-06. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4611.
Bill number 4611, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat of Shadow Pines.
Any discussion on this? Hearing none, please read it and call the roll.
An ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat of Shadow Pines. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes. That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4612.
Bill number 4612, an ordinance amending sections 405.060, 405.080.c, 405.135.b, and 405.410 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSUCMO, the Unified Development Ordinance, to add a new category of land use for a brew house as a conditional use in agricultural zoning district and permissive use in commercial and industrial zoning districts.
Are there any questions or comments on this bill? Hearing none, would you please go ahead and call the roll?
An ordinance amending sections 405.060, 405.080.c, 405.135.b, and 405.410 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSUCMO, the Unified Development Ordinance, to add a new category of land use for a brew house as a conditional use in agricultural zoning district and permissive use in commercial and industrial zoning districts. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4613.
Bill number 4613, an ordinance approving an agreement with the City of O'Fallon to convey right-of-way of Deer Creek Drive/Elaine Drive.
Anybody have any questions or comments on this bill?
I'd like to thank John Greifsue for the few years it took to get this done. Yeah.
Well done, John. Please read the bill and call the roll.
An ordinance approving an agreement with the City of O'Fallon to convey right-of-way of Deer Creek Drive/Elaine Drive. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4614.
Bill number 4614, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a memorandum of understanding in conjunction with the Core Public Health Functions Contract for fiscal year 2018 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for services to residents of St. Charles County and receipt of funds across fiscal years 2018 through 2021.
Is there any questions or comments on this bill? Hearing none, please read it and call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a memorandum of understanding in conjunction with the Core Public Health Functions Contract for fiscal year 2018 with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for services to residents of St. Charles County and receipt of funds across fiscal years 2018 through 2021. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4615.
Bill number 4615, an ordinance amending the 2018 budget adopted as ordinance 17-113 by establishing funding and appropriation for dental insurance claims in the self-insurance fund budget.
Do we have any questions or comments on this bill? Hearing none, please read it, call the roll.
An ordinance amending the 2018 budget adopted as ordinance 17-113 by establishing funding and appropriation for dental insurance claims in the self-insurance fund budget. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to bills for introduction. First bill is 4616.
Bill number 4616, requested by Bob Schnur, sponsored by Dave Hammond, an ordinance amending the 2018 budget adopted as ordinance 17-113 by transferring unencumbered appropriations between line items in the Circuit Court Capital Projects Fund.
Are there any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, let's move on to Bill 4617.
And this is less than 3 pages, so I'll read the bill.
Okay.
Bill number 4617, requested by Ruth Rollins and Bob Schnurr, sponsored by Dave Hammond, an ordinance amending the 2018 budget adopted by Ordinance 17-113 for positions within the St. Charles County Information Systems Department. Whereas the Department of Information Systems seeks to add a system engineer and architecture professional position for a total of 2 such positions in the Information Systems Department. And whereas the Department of Information Systems seeks to remove 1 system architect position for a total of 0 system architect positions. And whereas the 2018 annual budget approved by Ordinance 17-113 as amended needs to be amended to reflect the personnel change. And whereas the St. Charles County Charter, Article 6, Section 6.208, authorizes the county council to provide by ordinance any and all procedures for administering the budget that are necessary and that do not conflict with the language contained in the charter. Now therefore be it ordained by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the budget of St. Charles County, Missouri for fiscal year 2018, as adopted by Ordinance 17-113 in the Information Systems Department, 0810, page 39 of the budget, as amended by Ordinance 18-019, is hereby amended as follows. 1, remove 1 full-time system architect position, pay grade 301, for an amended allocation of 0 system architect positions. 2, add 1 full-time system engineer and architecture professional exempted from the merit system, pay grade 305, for an amended allocation of 2 full-time system engineer and architecture professional positions exempted from the merit system, pay grade 305. Section 2, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect as of passage and approval.
Are there any questions or comments on this bill? Hearing none, we'll move on to table bills. Bill 4534, are we ready to bring that off the table?
It falls after tonight.
Okay.
It falls off the agenda.
I remember that now. Next bill is 4583.
I'd like to remove substitute bill 4583 off the table.
Second.
You're removing bill number 4583 from the
No,
table.
don't you remove substitute bill 4583?
We never adopted
Oh, we
it.
don't, we don't have,
4583.
okay, I got you. Okay.
So we're moving
Bill
Bill
4583.
4583. I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I'd like to offer Amendment 1. Can I offer them together or separately?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I need a motion for substitute bill 4583.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to make a motion to amend bill number 4583 and replace it with substitute bill 4583.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Excuse me.
Oh, discussion.
Now it's before you, you need to amend it if you want to, before you vote on it.
Right.
The substitute's now in front of you,
Now you can
Yes.
offer your amendment.
and now you offer your amendment and then vote on the substitute as amended.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to offer, there's 2 amendments, so I'd like to offer Amendment 1 to substitute bill 4583.
You need
And
to,
do we vote on the amendment? or
Do we have any discussion on that amendment?
I would like to discuss both amendments, but if we can put them forth and then to talk about why we did it, is that,
Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do them one at a time. So, substitute bill, first substitute amendment.
so substitute Amendment 1, the attorneys have been working very hard to solidify some of the requirements and the expectations of the council and some of the expectations of people who are concerned. So, Ms. George, on the Amendment 1, you want to briefly explain, or whichever, whoever, Joanne or whoever wants to do that?
So in front of you, you've got Amendment 1, which is simply to swap out your Exhibit B that was dated 6/20 of 18 for Exhibit B dated 6/25, which had the change in the number of parking spaces along the street from your prior version that you had on your agenda. And the other change from what is posted as Exhibit B on the agenda to the Exhibit B that you're adopting is reflecting the change in the side yard separation from 25 feet to 20 feet.
Okay, for point of order, you made the motion for that amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any other further
What got
discussion?
handed out?
he made the motion.
All those in favor of Amendment 1?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
If I may, council members, it seems like you've got some confusion potentially as to what is the content of Amendment 1. So you've got them in front of you. Amendment 1 to substitute Bill number 4583 reads, amend substitute Bill number 4583, Section 2, number 1, by deleting Exhibit B and labeled the Bluffs Planned Unit Development, St. Charles County, Missouri, 06-20-18 PUD, received by the county on 6/20/18, and adding Exhibit B and labeled the Bluffs Planned Unit Development, St. Charles County, Missouri, 06-25-18 PUD, received by the county on 06-25-18.
Is there any other questions?
On my paperwork, that's Amendment 2, not Amendment 1.
County Counselor?
No, it's one.
That's Amendment 1, as shown on this short sheet.
They have them. I sent it down.
This one says,
Oh, you got the wrong one. Mike, is this one?
is that the old one?
Yeah.
All right.
Did you guys pass it all the way down?
Here, pass
That's
that
the
one
old
down.
one, isn't it?
And Councilman, Mr. I'm sorry, maybe that's what you were going to explain.
Mr. Chairman, I know Mr. Hazelwood, I believe Mr. Hazelwood explained to you all that I've recused myself from involvement on this matter on behalf of the county, but I just would ask that that be noted in the minutes, since I will be noted as otherwise providing advice to you all tonight. Mr. Ellis and Ms. Rourke are here to provide legal advice to you should the need arise with respect to the Bluffs development.
Thank you, Mr. Norman.
Vote on the substitute.
So we're good on Amendment 1.
We have to vote on
Yes.
it, right?
Well, I think
Yes, you need to vote on
I have a
Amendment
second.
1.
So all those in favor of Amendment 1?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Amendment 2 for substitute bill 4583.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Again, we had concerns about some of the restrictions with the covenants, the easements, the tree preservation, the acreage that's supposed to be locked into conservation and restrictions, the language of the subdivision, the homeowners association down the road. We wanted to identify everything that we talked about. We wanted to make sure that the tree preservation was included, that the land preservation is included. If you want to, do you want to read the amendment, Donna?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And these are then to amend substitute Bill number 4583, Section 2, by adding the following. 3, declarations, covenants, easements, conditions, and restrictions submitted to the county along with the final plat and later recorded in the Office of Recorder of Deeds, St. Charles County, shall contain requirements that serve the purposes of preservation, restoration, and protection of the native flora, fauna, and other natural conservation features of the area, including but not limited to prohibitions on non-native invasive species of plants and lighting components that minimize off-site lighting impact and curtail light pollution. 4, should the PUD expire or is otherwise terminated, the zoning of the property shall revert to the A agricultural zoning district. 5, all cross-hatched areas, whether common ground or subdivided lot, shown on Exhibit B, the Bluffs Planned Unit Development, St. Charles County, Missouri, 06-25-18 PUD, received by the county on 6/25/18, shall be subject to a recorded easement indicating that the area is a conservation area in which no trees can be removed except that in crosshatch area E, individual trees may be removed to build up to 6 homes to a maximum disturbance area of 15,000 square feet per home, and renumbering the remaining sections accordingly within the substitute bill.
Do we have any other discussion on this amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor of Amendment 2?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
I'd like to briefly go over the plan on what the new plan is so everybody understands exactly what it is we're voting on. Mr. Hammond?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, do we have a slide of the original plan, please? Donna?
That Jim will put that.
Okay.
That's up there.
When we've had a lot of reference, and this is, I want to tell you guys, this has been hard on all of us because, you know, we're on sides of people that we always usually agree with, especially me. So I just think there's property rights issue, and I think there's other issues that fall into the philosophy of what we're dealing with. What we had is 400 homes that they started with. And it was all, does this thing work?
You could put, yeah. You should have
Huh?
User error.
I just saw light up.
It's on.
You got to
that
put.
triangle.
All right. Does it go that far, Mike, or not?
It should.
It's not going that, it won't go that far. Okay, so, all right, guys. We have 400 single-family homes. There's 3 clusters of townhomes that are contiguous with the industrial zoning. That portion of it have not changed. And from all the people I've talked to, that was really never a bone of contention. It's always the lot sizes, the single-family homes. So when we started this thing, it was 7,500 square foot lot sizes, which was ridiculous. This is the plan and zoning passed. What we changed it to, do you have that, Donna, or whoever's back there?
Jim will.
Jim, can you put the new plan on there? You don't have a colored one?
No, that's all.
Okay, so you got 140 single-family homes. You have on the bluffer, they took all the lots off the bluff. Those are supposed to be dark green, which have the stripes on it, sections E. So the piece below that line where that bump out is additional 60 acres. It runs parallel with that whole lot. It's 60 acres that conservation owns. Then that's another 61, 62 acres that's undisturbed, tree preserved, wooded lots. Also, what we talked about is we had them take all the houses away from Zolotech. So I hope and I believe Zolotech's happy now. We also added an additional parking lot. Where's that show on the plan? That's a terrible plan. Do we have a better one, or is that there's a parking lot we added off the spur, and that's doubling the size for parking because that was a concern. So the concerns that were brought before us were good concerns, and we feel, is that one a better one, Mike?
Let's try that. Jim, try the overhead.
Can you straighten that out, Mike? That beige area is conservation ground, and that's the Katy Trail down there. And then that other dark green is all preservation, restricted ground. And then the striped area along the spur is 100-foot preserved tree line on it. And then you have the additional parking for the Katy Trail. This subdivision has more restrictions. I've been on the county council 18 years, and this subdivision has more restrictions than any subdivision we have ever granted. So, when a lot of people come and talk to us about the University of Missouri, they can't sell the property, all this other stuff, that's not what's before us. It's the zoning issue. And all of our attorneys told us over and over again that if we do nothing, the University of Missouri could legally move forward to do whatever they want with this ground, like they did with the research park. We were in legal battles years ago over the research park, and they did what they wanted to do because state supersedes county law. So there's other issues here that involve where we're trying to get the best plan, avoid being sued, and give the developer and the University of Missouri property rights. Because if you care about the University of Missouri, this is a philosophical thing I'm going to say, but if you care, and I went to Mizzou, my daughter's going to Mizzou, I graduated from Mizzou, if you care about the University of Missouri and they have unwanted or unneeded assets, then they should have the right to sell it. That's the responsible thing to do. And I know we're not going to agree on that particular issue, but I think it's a land rights issue. So my point is I truly believe that we did our best that we can to make this acceptable subdivision, and I'm sorry that there's people that aren't happy with it. I think that we've made some people happy with it, but not everybody. So, and I apologize for that, but I just cannot philosophically agree with the idea or the notion that this cannot simply be developed. I just don't agree with that. And I'm the advocate of 5-acre lots and tree preservation, stream bank protection. Those are all my ordinances. So the Sahara Club, we supported them last year on the plant in Franklin County. As a Republican council, we got a ton of static on that for writing a resolution opposing Ameren UE for putting silt in the air. And guess what? They put those monitors out, cost them millions of dollars. And last year, this council did it. We stood up to Ameren UE, and they put those monitors out. They only did that because we put a lot of heat on them. Franklin County got all over us for it. So this is about doing the right thing, in my view, and I believe this is doing the right thing. And I truly believe that we really compromise. We listen to tree preservations. We listen to about preserving the trees and putting conservation ground on. So I support this at this point. The first plan was awful, but this, we come around. We come a long way. So that's my position.
Any other comments from the council?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, I've done about as much work as I possibly do on this, and Saturday I actually walked both the Katy and the Bush Greenway in both directions. And I went home and I read the Book of Wisdom, talked about King Solomon and a Jewish king, in a book that was written in Greek that's part of the Protestant and Catholic Bibles, and also it's part of Judaism as well. And this is kind of like King Solomon's verdict. You know, it's the one famed thing that he did was two mothers claimed the same child, and he said, well, let's cut the child in half. We'll give you half to each. And this is kind of the same thing in some respects. I don't like the plan, the current plan, from the sense that the golf course is not protected, and that golf course could be an additional subdivision down the road, because Mr. Brazel's right. The university has full control over that golf course. They still own it. I also don't like the fact that the university's still got about 500 acres there in total, and they have control over that too. So even though we're talking about 400, there's still 100 or so they've got. Now, they have a master plan for that area. The president told us that. We met with him. But they haven't told us that, a master plan. The other thing is, I did walk the Katy, and I think the new changes to the plan, I'm pretty comfortable with. They're going to protect the Katy pretty well if we get the right amount of legal coverage in the next two steps, which is the preliminary and the final. Okay, development. We've got a very good team of lawyers, and I think they're pretty well dedicated to that. But the problem I really do have beyond this is it doesn't protect the Bush Greenway. And on Saturday when I was out there were as many people on that Bush Greenway as there was on the Katy. The lower portion of the lower third of the Bush Greenway is protected fairly well with that large area in the southwest corner. Yes. The middle third has got a 100-foot buffer, and the upper third is all subdivision lots. So if you drive that area, if you drove that area now, there's a mature forest on both sides of that road. That forest can be gone. There's no restrictions on that. I think that I have some concerns about that the conservation and no disturbance zones aren't really well defined, but I've been told that we can get that, address that down the road in the preliminary and final plan. But still, I think I'm not really good with this yet. And I do want to say one thing. Mr. Whitaker went out of it, and his team went out of his way to put more conservation efforts into this latest plan. Is it as much as I want? No, it's not. Okay. I think the University of Missouri was very nice. The president came out and talked to us with some of the curators, and they've given a little bit, but they've not given too much. I want to know what they plan on doing with that golf course down the road. And they're not giving that cart up out of their deck. And I think the conservation groups aren't 100% happy with this. And a lot of folks in my district have contacted me. Even the nuns that I educated me contacted me about this. So there's a lot of people that are still concerned, because this is a really valuable asset to this county. Not only the Katy, but the Bush Greenway. And I saw a lot of smiling faces out there playing golf that day too. I went up to the golf course and looked around. So while I think this plan is a lot better, it's still not there. And I would like to spend more time to work it and make it better, but I don't think that's the wishes of the rest of the council.
So I'm the newest guy on the council. I wasn't on a city council before this. I haven't spent 18 years, so I haven't seen everything. I've been here 5, since April of 13.
I have heard more about this issue from the citizens of this community than I have any issue that I have heard come before this council in the time I've been here. And I haven't heard them complain that 7,500 square foot lots were too small and 15,000 were what they were looking for. I've heard, don't develop this. I heard just tonight, there is a group that is out there trying to put together an opportunity to purchase this land. They're looking for other opportunities of ways to do this. And I think they could actually do it. I think they could put this together. I think we could make this a really good, preserved community. And I don't think we need to disturb it. I think the home builder is a very conscientious home builder. I think he really has a heart for this. I do. I think he wants to build this in the most conscientious way. And I have never seen so many revisions for anything that has come before this council in the time we've been here. But we had again tonight public comment on this. The only people who comment positively for this are people who are involved in building the community and have a stake in that. And the people that we hear over and over who flood our phone calls, who flood our emails, say, please don't do this.
Okay.
So I'm not claiming to be the smartest guy in the world, and I'm not claiming to be the most experienced politician that you've ever seen in the world, but I do claim to understand when the majority of the citizens, and I mean an overwhelming majority of the citizens of this community, say don't do this, that we should not do this. At the very least, for Mr. Cronin said, we should look at other opportunities that should have the opportunity to be developed. I don't think the council's going to vote that way. I think this is going to get approved tonight. I think it's sad. I think it's, once the land gets disturbed forever. And once it gets torn up, if this turns out to be a really great community, good for the people who live there, bad for the community in general. I'm a no on this, and I would encourage the council to vote no on this.
All right. Any other speakers?
Yes, I'd like to just point out just a couple of things. First of all, there's been a lot of comments about the University of Missouri. It's very clear they want to sell this land for this project. We can wish and hope all we want, but the University of Missouri, you know, many, probably several years ago, but certainly many months ago, decided this is what they want to do with the land. Okay. Second thing, most of the emails that I've been receiving talk about the Katy Trail. And everything that I've been able to determine is that this project will not affect the Katy Trail at all. None of the homes will be visible from the Katy Trail. So consequently, I don't see how that can possibly affect the vista that we're looking for in that private area. The third thing, and I've gone back and forth on this, is when this plan was initially introduced, I didn't think there was any way in the world they could pull off, no matter how good their intentions, 380 single-family homes on this property. Just didn't think it could be done, no matter how good their intentions were. I do believe at this point, with all the revisions, the fact that they have reduced it to 140 homes, the fact that the conservation areas in this development have gone from 14 acres when it was originally introduced to 92 acres has kind of certainly changed my opinion on those. So those are the three things. I really see very little, if any, impact on the Katy Trail. I think the University of Missouri has the right to do with this property what they choose to do with it. And then last of all, I think that this development, with all the things that have gone into it, 140 home sites is not really a whole lot more than if we just subdivided this into 3-acre lots and went from there. We're pretty close to that if you look at the total project. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yes.
Yep. I've really wrestled with this one long and hard. I first came out as a member of the Planning and Zoning Board and voted against it. I was dead set against the first plan that was shown to us. And part of the public process is that we told, Whitaker Homes what it was that we didn't like about it. And they significantly changed it. They came back and showed us another plan. We asked them to change other things, and they've done it. Time and time again, they kept changing it, making it better. I think that we have a plan now that is completely different than the first plan. Does it still involve building homes? Yes, it does. Does it step it away from the most sensitive parts of this property that was used by the public, being the Katy Trail and the spur line? Yes, it does. From a planning and zoning standpoint, we ask them not to put it close to commercial businesses. They eliminated those lots from consideration from being built on. They put in a lot more green space than we've had in any other development. Whitaker's also came and said, we understand the sensitive nature of it. We're going to put conservation requirements on the property owners themselves. Those things are not like any other development that we've done in St. Charles County. What I've seen is Whitaker Homes being sensitive to the environment. The areas that are most used, we're pushing the development back from. The proximity to Zoltec and to Duckett Creek, it started off being in close proximity to it. It's been reconfigured several times now. Lots have been removed, significantly pushed back and away from those areas. Tree preservation was at 73%. Now we're at 88%. Are there still going to be some trees removed? Yes, there are. Is it, going to require, some more traffic for the surrounding neighborhoods? Yes, it is. But I believe that at the end of the process, this is a compromise that is as good as we can get. Again, the University of Missouri could do this without paying any attention to any of our requirements whatsoever. That's what we're faced up against. I think that Whitaker has shown that they've gone above and beyond what we have asked of any other development. This thing is, you're not going to see it from the Katy Trail. There are other subdivisions that you can see from the Katy Trail, and it has not destroyed the use of the Katy Trail. It's there. People continue to use it. I actually think that it will open it up, and yes, we will have development, but it will be ground that you can actually go through and see now where you couldn't before. So I'm going to vote for it. I am changing my vote for those reasons. Thank you.
Okay, John?
Not to repeat what Terry and Mike have said, but I agree with what they said about the project. All I want to say is that I commend everybody that got involved in this project. Absolutely. And what came out of it was a better project. So I thank you for your involvement, and I hope you stay involved through the whole process.
Yes. We did. We listened, and it improved it.
Okay. With that, I guess I'm going to go ahead. If everybody's done, I'd like to make a few comments that no one's touched on here. Number one, having to do with the golf course. The people building this subdivision have a 77-year lease left, if that's correct. How long the lease is? 77 years?
74.
74.
But who's counting?
But, so Missouri just can't turn around and do what they want with the golf course. They have a contractual agreement with the Whitaker family that operates that now. So, and I think with the homes there, that's only going to ensure that that golf course is even going to be there longer, because there are people that want to live by that golf course. And I've been contacted by several people, not only in this county, but outside this county, that would love to live by that golf course because they like playing golf there, and they think it's a beautiful place to put a home. Hey, So I'm in support of this too, and like I said, Whitaker has been a developer in his county for almost 40 years, and everything they've done's been first class, and I don't expect it any less from them.
Let's go, Dave.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none.
Substitute Bill Number 4583, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from AFF Agricultural District with a floodway fringe overlay district to R1A FF PUD, single-family residential district with floodway fringe and planned unit development overlay districts as per application PUD 18-01. Councilmember Elam?
No.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Abstain.
Councilmember Breisel?
Yes.
That bill passes. Thank
Excuse
you.
me, Mr. Council Chair, that was adoption of the substitute. You'll now need to adopt the underlying bill.
Okay.
So I'll read the title
I've
again.
got silence in the audience. Hey, you had your time to speak. Yes, you have.
I will read the title again.
Okay.
Substitute Bill Number 4583, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from AFF Agricultural District with a floodway fringe overlay district to R1A FF PUD, single-family residential district with floodway fringe and planned unit development overlay districts as per application PUD 18-01. Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin.
Abstain.
Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Councilmember Elam.
No.
That bill passes. The only item we have left is announcements, miscellaneous. Are there any announcements or miscellaneous? Hearing none, how about a motion?
Motion
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second. I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.